For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony today and for your service. Secretary Kendall, you and I have had great conversations around the work happening in my community, El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss, but also with the University of Texas at El Paso. I have long worked to ensure that we are creating not just an economic development engine that capitalizes on our advanced manufacturing, our 3D printing, and our aerospace engineering programs at UTEP, but have worked to make sure that we are a strong supporter of our national defense. And I have long spoken about the need for us to further capitalize on the brilliance of our research institutions, and really enjoyed our conversation about that the other day, Secretary Kendall. I have a question about personnel management for you. You've identified enacting a Space Force Personnel Management Authority to offer a new model of service to the nation, and that's a priority, and it's a priority right now when we have seen a decline in public propensity to serve. Can you elaborate on this authority, the benefits that this effort can provide to ensure that we develop and sustain a diverse, dynamic workforce? And can you speak to the ways it addresses some of the publicly perceived barriers to service that have plagued recruitment across the military services?
Thank you, Congressman Escobar. I think you're referring to the initiative from the Space Force to create a single component where people can serve actively full-time or part-time and be part of essentially the same institution. General Saltzman spent a lot of time after he came into office working on the details of that. We had submitted a similar proposal last year, and Congress asked us to go back and study it some more. I think we've got a fairly well thought out, thorough proposal now that will be practical, and we'll be able to apply it, and it'll confer some big benefits on us. It'll give people a lot more flexibility. They'll be able to serve their nation, but also, do other things at certain times of their lives when that's what they need to do. So the flexibility, I think, will help, and it'll help us retain, both acquire and retain talent. I think it'd have a very major benefit.
That's fantastic. General Saltzman, anything you'd like to add?
The Secretary covered the key aspects of it. It's about flexibility and a career path. We think that's what the modern military member is looking for, right? They have this desire to serve, but sometimes full-time service isn't exactly what they need. So having options like a part-time path where you can come in and come out, that permeability is also very valuable to retain the talent that we need.
Thank you so much. And this next question is for Secretary Kendall and General Brown. The fiscal year 24 budget request for the Space Force has been identified by the service as one that pivots toward resilient architectures and embodies an integrated deterrence approach to enable the Space Force's ability to operate in a highly contested environment. Does your budget request support digital open architecture engineering, which the private sector has developed and continues to test through the industrial base, both in El Paso and nationally? And can you speak to the benefits that digital open architecture engineering provides as we prioritize rapid system development?
It's an improvement in engineering practice and in program management that allows much more efficient development to occur. In particular, in a situation where you have an organization like the government as a customer working with contractors. What started to some degree with the B-21, but it's been done on other programs. It's being done on Next Generation Air Dominance now very effectively, and we're seeing it in other places. And we're picking this up from the commercial world to a certain extent. But you have a single environment. People can work on it together. You have a much more fluid interaction between people, which makes you much more efficient. And you're allowed to move data back and forth. You share a database. You share a computing environment. And then the design approach itself uses digital models which are much more sophisticated than traditionally, so that you can move through a lot of design iterations very quickly. It's a fairly substantial improvement. I've tried to get a quantitative estimate of what kind of an improvement it is. People have talked about factors. I think it's more like a 20–25% kind of an improvement, but that's significant, and it reduces risk substantially on our programs to be able to do this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. General Brown, anything to add?
The one thing I'd add is as I talk to our acquisition professionals is the aspect of because they're able to work in a digital environment, they don't have to wait to a big critical design review to actually sit down and pour through paperwork. They can actually kind of do it real time, well ahead of the timeline, which saves time and then gets us in a better place in the long run.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair, now recognize the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Waltz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Saltzman, when we actually was with General Thompson, but